Hey, good day, Kendall County. This is Jon Tipton and my co-host, Mr. Robert Saenz.
Good to be back.
We are so pleased to be able to get together again to provide this some information via this forum. And we are extremely fortunate today to have representatives from the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, and the Libertarian Party. And for you all to understand what we're trying to do is we've asked the leaders of these respective parties here together today to have an open dialogue about what's important to the leaders of the respective parties and how that translates into being important to you, the constituents and our viewers and our listeners. So,
and what makes them different?
And
right?
what makes
the parties different? Yeah.
And I suspect we're going to find that there's probably a lot that we align on.
Oh, that's true. That's true. It's not always about differences. Sometimes
you do have a choice.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Right. So to my left, I have Mr. Mike Wheeler, who is the committee chairman for the Kendall County Republican Party. Welcome, Mr. Wheeler.
Thank
we
you.
Appreciate you taking the time to join us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And then to my right, we have Ms. Susan Dollar, who is, and please correct me, you are the representative of the Democratic Party. You're the president of the Democratic
Bernie Democrat
Club.
Bernie
club,
Democratic Club,
which is under the party.
Right.
Our county chair is Laura Bray, and so she fulfills the chair role, and I handle the club.
Okay. And so you're here today representing those.
Yes, she was not able to be here.
Okay.
John, did you do this on purpose? You put our Democrat representative to the right, and you put our Republican Democrat to the left.
Well, it's an experiment we talked about.
Okay, it's an experiment.
About
Yeah. Interesting. And then, of course, the Libertarian just kind of he's
Right in the middle.
Yeah, we're
out there in the middle somewhere.
So we're very fortunate for those of you that are listening and not viewing on one of the social media platforms or via YouTube or Rumble, which, by the way, if you are viewing on Rumble or on YouTube, please take a moment to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and ring that bell for notifications so you get to see all the wonderful content as it's released. And some of you may have noticed that recently, Robert, we've started releasing some shorter clips,
Disagreements.
and disagreements.
John and I don't always align, by the way, and you'll start seeing that in some of these little clips on really interesting issues that affect Kendall County and the nation. And so if you can see different perspectives,
Right.
let us know who you think is right or wrong. I'd like to hear that.
I'm going to start offering discount codes with my name on it.
Buy the votes.
Right,
yes,
right.
I got it.
So Mr. Conroy is the representative for the Libertarian Party. He is the county chair for the Libertarian Party, which is, an unsung hero in some people's minds. And I think with the three of y'all here together, we're going to be able to give the constituency here in Kendall County a good snapshot of what to expect on local issues. And if we delve into some of the more state or national, that's fine as well. But we really want to kind of focus on Kendall County as a whole and why each of your respective parties, planks, platforms are important to the county. So
Let's get started.
let's do it.
Why don't we break the ice a little bit here? And Mike Wheeler, tell us about yourself a little bit, what brought you here, and then tell us, educate us about what the party chair does for the parties.
Michael Wheeler. I've been in Kendall County since August of 22, so I'm fairly new to the county.
Welcome.
Thank you. I lived in Fair Oaks for 3 years while we were building here in Kendall. I moved here from London, England. I was there for 12 years or so. I was a bond trader. I ran the high yield trading desk for Morgan Stanley and Bank of America in London. Got kind of old for the trading gig and it's ready to
Fast-paced.
Yes, it's go fast paced and ready to move back to the States. And it couldn't pick a better place to live. Really, it's just got everything I want. So I was a city boy was in New York City before that, so I was a city boy for a long time. And overnight, went back to my country roots. I grew up in New Hampshire, which is surprisingly very similar to Texas, except for the weather. Live free or die, that's our motto. But I immediately wanted to get involved in politics here. I was in Bearcat the last election. I was a delegate for the convention, and just kind of slowly have progressed in my interaction with the party. The party for me has been just amazing. I wanted to get involved, and you can't believe how easy it is to get involved if you really want to.
Well, I mean, obviously you've been here 2 years.
Yeah.
You're already the party chair. Was it a lot of competition, or?
Well, it was politics is a passion of mine. But I was the treasurer first.
I see.
It was the first thing I could do, and a precinct chair. And then tragically, our previous chair passed away,
Yes.
Buck Rogers, who was a mentor to me and became a fast friend very quickly.
Yeah. He was very engaging.
He was very engaging, and just a great man.
Yes.
He gave so much for our country. And he brought me in and taught me a lot of what was going on, as if he knew something was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a natural fit for me to kind of, fulfill the rest of his term. I'm on the ballot for the next, to re-up my 2 years in March.
Great.
Oh, just real quick, the role. Okay, so the role of the way I view it is to expand the Republican footprint in Kendall County, to increase voter interaction, to get more people involved, to keep it red.
Gotcha. Susan, you heard Mike. He wants to expand the footprint, right? I imagine you probably want to do the same for
We
your
have a
footprint.
common goal. We want to expand the blue footprint.
Tell us about yourself a little bit, Susan, and how you got into this role.
Okay. I'm from Texas originally, but have lived elsewhere. We moved here in 2006, actually from Kansas. And I was still working at that time, but once I retired a few years ago, I'd had some time on my hands. And like Mike said, it's very easy to get involved because people are anxious to get some volunteers to do different things. I started out working as an election clerk during the elections here in Kendall County. And there has always been there was a women's Democratic Party that was very active, small but active.
Was, huh?
Was.
Okay.
But we started getting men into the Kendall County Women's Club. So we changed the name, and now it's Bernie Area Democrats, because we do have members from 6 surrounding counties. But the main goal of the club is to educate people, to help them become more informed, and to engage them, get them out active, get them out to vote. The party is a state-sanctioned group under the Texas Democratic Party. And like Mike said, it's to expand the footprint, to get people out to vote, and also to hold the county convention, which is March 23rd, 24, and then send delegates to the state convention and possibly even the national convention. So the party really focuses on getting out the vote, get them registered, get them out. The club tries to say, okay, before you go vote, you need to understand the issues. You need to know some things about what you're going to vote on and your candidates. So
a difference is like, I'm actually responsible to do my part of the primary in March.
Right.
Like Laura, I believe.
Yes.
We've signed a contract for a countywide election. So there's more than just get the vote out in footprint. There's actual
that's right.
state provisions that we must
work involved.
There was,
what about you, Pat? Tell us about what got you started to lead the Libertarian movement.
Well, I originally started, I worked for the state Republican Party for several years. When I started with the Republican Party in Texas, there was one out of the 31 Senate Democrats, there were no Republicans. Out of the 150 state reps, there was only one Republican, a guy named Frank Cahoon out of Odessa. So it was, we were, I guess at that time, more or less like the Libertarian Party is now in Texas. The difference is that, clearly, we are a two-party country. I wish that weren't the case, but it probably will be the case for the foreseeable future. I don't know when the last time one party took over and another party disappeared. Maybe the Whigs in whatever year it might have been. But I was born and raised in San Antonio, South San Antonio, which there's a difference. And Bernie was Might as well have been Odessa as far as I knew back then. But now, of course, it's part of San Antonio, and I don't know if that's good or bad. But I worked in the Nixon campaign, and then eventually worked a little bit for John Tower. He was obviously a Republican back at that time, Republican senator. He took over from Lyndon Johnson when Johnson got elected and had to resign the Senate. He was Tower was elected in a special election. But it became clear to me, and I got away from politics for a while. And in 1976, I guess that's when I first started voting Libertarian. And there was a fellow named Roger McBride who was an elector, and he was a Republican elector, but he actually voted for the Libertarian candidate, or I don't know if he was a Libertarian candidate, but he did not vote for Nixon. And that's kind of his claim to fame in the electoral college.
So the Libertarians, I guess, it sounds like it's an honorable thing you're doing, Pat, but it's hard to win, is what I'm hearing, right?
We may have lost. Oh, there he is. Okay.
I think there's no question that we're, at least at this stage, and we're still kind of tilting at windmills. But I think what typically
like
happens,
the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh Lord, don't.
Well, that's another show. Okay.
I think what generally happens is that as ideas become more accepted, either libertarian ideas or Green Party ideas or whatever, they basically get adopted by one of the two major parties. And so perhaps the most important thing for the Libertarians is to try to get the Republicans to break away from being what I call the uniparty. Since 1960, there have been 32 years of Republican presidents and 32 years of Democrat presidents. And in 1960, the federal debt was, I think, around $270 billion. Mm-hmm. Today, it's $3,000 billion, or $3.3 trillion.
It's a lot of zeros.
And they're all, it doesn't matter what party is in, Republicans or Democrats, it just keeps growing. And so I think that's one of the things that I would hope that the Libertarians are able to do to influence more than likely the Republican Party, although we are, we are progressive or liberal on individual liberty, similar to a lot of the Democrats. So I could hope that we could influence
both sides,
one of the other parties to kind of move in that direction.
It's interesting when you talk about the deficit. For those that have been watching our show or paying attention to Kendall County politics, Robert and I were involved in defeating a local proposition for the creation of a new emergency services district here, specifically in Precinct 3. And that was no small feat. So if you can imagine doing that on a state level or a national level, instituting change is not easy. Or defeating, a popular idea, because it was run under the auspices of
support your firefighters, and we need to spend more money in order to have more jobs, and we're going to protect your home, and they just went on and on. It was a veil, but in reality, it was to create another board, another bureaucracy, more taxes. Yes, we're receiving the same thing.
So to your point, we have the two larger parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. The Republicans will say that they are hardline, right-wing conservatives, fiscal conservatives. However, once we put them into office and we start seeing what matriculates and, comes out of Washington, D.C. or out of Austin, it's always spend, 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 spend. Or you may hear about, well, we tried to do a tax cut, but we couldn't get it across party lines, and they blame it on the Democrats, right? So I guess my point is, from both of the larger parties, we hear a lot of talk about fiscal conservatism, but when it comes down to it, we go from $300 billion deficit to a 3,000 trillion or a 3 trillion or whatever that number is. It's huge. So where does the rubber meet the road, and when do we start holding people accountable for that?
Well, and I also think voters, John, I mean, we're a little bit of a hypocrites ourselves, because we we like to talk about fiscal conservative or balance the budget, but then we want our toys too. We want more from these elected officials to give us everything we want, but also
Like what?
cut our taxes.
Like what do we really want the government to give us?
Well, that's a good question. Let's ask Susan that.
Okay.
What do we want
Well,
as far as the Democrats go?
As
What do
far
you
as the
hear that
Democrats
we
go,
want?
I think fiscal conservatism is probably at this point not achievable. I mean, we've got to find a balance. And I would agree with the Republican Party. There has to be some checks and balances and a middle road. But the Democrats, of course, very strongly support health care for all.
That's expensive.
It is expensive. It is very expensive. The Medicare program, veterans benefits. I mean, in a way, we have health care once you're over 65.
Right.
But the Medicaid expansion, we would like to see that because it would bring in several $1 billion to Texas every year. But mainly, it would cover more people for health care, which in the long run, if you get health care, preventive care, or dental care
It's for a better society.
down the road, you'll be healthier and can work, things like that. Public education. The Democrats are very much in support of public education. And the Texas Constitution, even in Article 7, says the legislature has to establish and maintain a free public school system. So
No mention of vouchers in there.
don't bring up the vouchers, please. At least for right now. Give us a breather here at the holidays. But I think we support public education very much. Local control is a huge issue for Democrats, and I think probably Republicans as well. We want to be able to have the ability legally to pass laws that affect our community, our county, keep things safe, but also have the benefits, like you say, that cost that we're going to need. I think
I've heard healthcare.
Yes, I wanted to, on that note, I wanted to give our friend Mike here a chance to talk about the healthcare, where the Republicans stand. Is it fair, Mike? Sometimes, people will go to the other extreme and say Republicans don't want healthcare for anyone. Is that true?
No, it's not true at all.
Then what do you?
We're realists in the sense that if you've spent any time, as I have, in a country where healthcare is basically free, it's a disaster. It balloons the budget even more. It hamstrings yourself. Like, look at England for example.
Well, you lived there,
Where
right?
I lived. They are in terrible shape. They have absolutely no power to cut spending, to change anything because of this big burdensome healthcare system that they have. So I think as a Republican, I'm all for everybody getting their fair share, especially as somebody who moved from England to here. It was an eye-opening experience to see the healthcare system here. But I think it's very clear that capitalism works. And unfortunately, I think our healthcare system has fallen prey to
Insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies.
Right here, but that's big business.
Yeah, we're
It's
right here
big
at Kellum
business.
Family Medicine, and I hear that a lot from our doctors. That
They're overcharging for. I mean,
the tail's wagging the dog.
Yeah,
They're telling the
you
doctor
start-
how to treat.
if you start trying to, and I've had to navigate the system because I'm new, only been back 4.5 years to the United States. To navigate the system is incredibly hard. You have to really, have to promote yourself. You have to try to get things like you have to negotiate prices yourself.
Sure.
I went to, I have asthma. I went to get some asthma medicine. They tried to charge me $350 for it.
It's capitalism.
But then guess what? I was able to get it on and then get it for nothing. It's clearly that the pharmaceutical companies are charging way too much for this medication, for this medicine.
So let's put that on. Well, Mike, I'm sorry.
I want to hear from Pat on this.
No, I definitely want to hear from Pat, but just to interject for half a second. But what is it though at the county level? That's a national level, talking about healthcare,
Yeah.
right? But Pat, what do you think is important for the Libertarians as far as if we want the government to provide us something, if we're trying to get bang for our buck? Where would you say that lies in the county?
Well, I think Thoreau said that government which governs least governs best. It's often attributed to Jefferson, but it wasn't Jefferson. But and I think the key, the libertarians essentially are saying, let's shrink the size of government. Nobody who looks at government and all the waste can really say that we couldn't cut a significant amount of government, but at the county level, at the state level, at the national level, at whatever level. And so I think the main thing that I would say, we want to try to do is to begin to shrink the size of government, because the more government is involved, the less freedom we have, the less liberty we have, and the less money we have when you get right down to it. The federal government gives Texas something like $110 billion a year. Well, the federal government doesn't have any money. Where does that money come from? It comes from us. Why collect it and send it back to us? I don't know what that money is for. Probably a lot of it is Medicaid. But the cost, I had a software company and we offered health savings accounts and PPO. We paid for the health savings account, and then people could donate, and we would match some of that donation. Or people could take a PPO. Well, a lot of people, which costs more, but they had to pay the difference. And a lot of people went ahead and did the PPO because they've been used to all their lives going to the doctor and seeing a $10 copay,
Right.
And no matter what it costs. And so it just was kind of amazing to me that so many people opted, especially younger people, opted because they're used to going to the doctor and not paying anything.
And that's a good point. We need to rethink that. And I'm seeing a shift, John, in medicine where I'm seeing more primary care clinics, for example, going to direct primary care,
Right.
A direct payment where you pay $150, $180 a month, whether you use your doctor or not, but the doctor's available to you for basic
And all your
basic
meds
needs.
are covered.
Right,
Yep.
right. It's got some limitations, of course, but I'm seeing that, which is saying that people are starting to take more accountability for their own health care. The sad thing, though, about that model is that it discriminates or it eliminates a lot of the people who can't afford $180 a month because they got to pay their rent, so it really is for people that are a little bit better off. I think Susan mentioned maybe expanding some programs like the Medicaid program or even Medicare to where it's reachable. It may not cover everybody, but maybe we cover some more people. Is that a solution? Or was the problem, Susan, when the Clintons were in office and they tried to take it to the other extreme, or even the Obamas, why didn't they just say, well, we're going to move Medicare? Yeah, that's healthcare for all. Maybe it's not realistic, like Mike says. Maybe it's bring Medicare down to where 60 years old, where people can start acquiring it sooner. I don't know.
There's such a huge cost to any change. And I know, like Mike said, the healthcare system is just pretty much a train wreck.
Like a military budget?
It's just
or
awful.
Worse.
But I think that for healthcare, even here in Bernie, there is one free clinic here, the Mission for Health out north of town, but I think it's really difficult. We have an older population here in Bernie as well. And if you can't champion yourself and you don't have access to the internet and you can't figure out those hospital bills or you don't protest the cost of that drug, it's really difficult for a lot of our citizens.
Tell us about this Mission for Health. You said it's in Kendall County?
It's in Kendall County. It's on the north end of town out in Industrial Park. It's run by, they have nurses and they have a doctor on staff that can come, but it's really run by volunteers.
And anyone can go there if you have a child or you're elderly and you get
I don't know
free
the
health care?
criteria, but yeah, it's specifically designed for lower income.
Okay.
But I don't know that they would turn anyone around.
So if I live in Cordillera Ranch, I could go there and get
That's what it sounds like.
I've had trouble finding a doctor here in Bernie because now my doctor's sold out. Don't take my insurance. His clinic doesn't take my insurance anymore. So
you'll have to come here to Killam Family Medicine.
Right.
Excellent,
Yes.
providers, right?
Don't even
There's a
finish.
yes. No, but they are. I know Dr. Diani transitioned.
That was
their doctor. We
yeah.
picked up a lot of patients here at Killam
I
Family
bet
Medicine.
you did because
Yes.
it's really a lot of places I've called, no more new patients.
Yes, we are still taking care of.
So I think it's just a mess, and I do not have the answer. I don't think the Democrats have the answer.
Okay, fair
I think
enough.
both sides run and say, we don't want this or we want this, and realistically, it's as broken as the immigration system.
We'll get to that.
Round up.
Interesting.
I would just like to say one thing about the budget,
Yes.
right? Because
county budget?
No, federal budget. I don't think it's really fair to characterize all Republicans as spend. There are numerous Republicans who want to cut the budget. I don't think you can find a Democrat who does. I don't think you could find a Democrat who would vote for any cuts. You can see it. It's continuing resolution every
few
right?
months.
We can't. It's not sustainable.
Right.
We as a party believe in cutting the budget. You do because of the numbers. You need help from the other party, right? We're not getting it. It's not sustainable. As a person that was in the markets for my whole career, I wish people would take the time to learn about what's going to happen if we don't get control of it. The market will punish us if we do not cut interest payments. We're already at about $700 million in interest payments. 700 billion in interest payments a year.
Yeah.
And we only took in $4.5 trillion of revenue, right? It's estimated that our budget deficit is going to be $50 trillion in 10 years. We're going to be very soon. We're going to be well over a quarter of what we spend on interest alone.
So how do we get the Democrats to come around and say, hey, we agree with you, we'll cut the budget?
They've been trying. I really don't think that people understand how desperate the situation is. I really don't. The market will turn its back on the United States eventually. What happens when you have interest payments that are just become, for companies, I saw it every day as a corporate trader, when the market starts to doubt whether you can pay your interest payments, your coupon payments, they turn their back on you and there's no way to refinance that debt and you're out of business. And if we do not change the direction of this budget, that's what's going to happen to us.
Some would say that's by design.
It designed by who?
Good question. That's a very good question.
I can tell you, yeah, I believe in small government. And yes, there are some Republicans out there that keep going along with everything, with the spending. But there are a majority of Republicans who agree in cutting it. We just can't do it alone.
2 points. One to your point about let's bring on healthcare. Let's maybe expand that program a little bit. Okay, got it. But that comes at a price, right?
Absolutely.
So it comes, but does it have to come at a price? That's the first question, and I don't really expect an answer. But if you go to the other side of the aisle, to the Republican side, all right, well, we want to stop spending. The proof is in the pudding, because every time I turn around, all I see is more spending, and I hardly see anybody, unless they're paying lip service, because I truly believe in actions speak louder than words. So you can run on a platform or or for your campaign saying, yes, I want to cut taxes and I want to, that doesn't mean anything to me. Zero. Hold zero water with me about cutting taxes.
Right.
So when do we hold people accountable for what we hired them to do?
But John, I think it starts, we're going to go back to local.
Yeah.
I think, and I've got a question for both Susan and Mike here, is that we're talking about a lot about getting the national government to cut. But do you all get involved in the local budgets? For example, recently the Kendall County had their budget hearings. I didn't see a lot of people attend those.
Nope.
And I went, and all I got was a bunch of bad looks from some department heads because I was trying to tell the commissioners and the county judge, stop giving them all their toys. There's a lot of toys that they buy out here that they don't need, in my opinion.
100%.
I mean, I can speak for myself. I'll be honest, as a party chair, it's not a policy position.
Right. I guess what I'm asking, Michael, is do you get involved, or do your parties get involved at the local level to look at these budgets, and also get involved as a Republican Party or Democrat Party, telling these local elected officials, hey, stop spending so much?
It's just not it's not my purview to do that, okay. Even though I may have personal beliefs, and I can do that personally.
But not
individually, and I would tell any Republican that's on their executive committee on anything, you can personally lobby whoever you want. Mm-hmm. That's a great thing. But as the party chair, I'm not. That's not my role.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
Is that the same, Susan?
Yeah, I think so, pretty much the same. We have, as the Democratic Party, have not engaged
In the local.
in the local budgets. We have in other issues,
Right.
public
And
schools.
that's
but
kind of what I'm getting to,
Yeah,
John, is
we haven't.
These county and city officials are kind of left to their own devices to spend. There's nobody watching them.
Because there's nobody, there's no oversight except for, I don't know,
You, me, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Pat, I'm sure you're keeping up with that stuff too, because I would think that this is an excellent for the Libertarian Party to step in and say, hey, you want to leave that void blank, Democrats, Republicans, we'll fill that void for you.
what do you think, Pat?
Well, one way to basically it's property taxes that take the most of our money in Kendall County. Sales taxes some, but it's basically property taxes. And the property taxes go essentially to the schools. And this gets back to the school choice issue. And we're obviously very strongly supportive of school choice, which doesn't mean you have to eliminate money for public schools. You just give people a choice of where to take their money that they are paying and give it either to a public school or to a private school. I was speaking with a state rep in Austin a couple of weeks ago, and I asked her, why are you against school choice? She's Hispanic. Why are you against school choice? Because it would help a lot of Hispanics to go to Catholic school. And she said, well, because it would take money away from public schools. And I said, well, what if it didn't take any money away from public schools and increased the amount going to public schools? Would you be for it? Well, no, I wouldn't, unless you could guarantee it in perpetuity. Well, I said, I don't know that anything can be guaranteed in perpetuity. But so it's not a matter of the Democrats being worried about money being taken from public schools. It's about, I'm assuming, the teachers' unions perhaps or whatever, although the teachers' unions I don't think are that strong in Texas. But I can't figure out why Democrats are so adamantly against school choice.
Okay.
Well, but then again, going back and I think on a national or on a state, that's a statewide issue that it's important. And I definitely think that's worthy of exploring possibly on another show.
Sure.
I think why we're here today, and this goes for everybody, is that we need to concentrate on what is going on in our county, because I firmly believe that our Constitution and the way that the country was founded, what our founders had in mind, wasn't a top-down environment, right? So we shouldn't be sitting here today discussing what the Republican Party or the Democratic Party says is good for Kendall County. That's where you, the leaders of your individual respective parties, get to set the tone and say, guys, based on our caucus, based on our research of local folks, these are the things that are important to us. And Austin,
Are they allowed to? I mean, Susan, can you do that at the local level?
Sure, I think, and we've done that to some extent, and we've tried very much to get our members engaged. Go to the county. They've gone to the county commissioners a lot more than the city.
Right.
But pay attention to that. Be involved in school. We've tried to get people to run for school boards. Run for a county commissioner. Run for city council.
Mm-hmm.
Run for some of the local offices, because all politics is local. And you're absolutely right that it should be ground up. And we've really lost that, I think. So
She said something interesting about running for office, and you and I were talking about this earlier. Why is it that we don't have a lot of people running? In fact, in this last county commissioners cycle or county cycle for elections, there was only one contested race.
yeah, for the upcoming
in 2024.
So we have one contested race in the primary, none from the Democrats, only on the Republican side. And Pat, I'm going to hold you to your feet to the fire on this too, and say, why the heck don't we have a Libertarian candidate?
That was an opportunity right there.
It was a huge missed opportunity, is what it was. And something you said earlier is about you're hoping that you're going to pull from the ranks of the Republicans and the Democrats. Yes, I think that's important. But people need to start voting their conscience instead of voting party lines. Or, you know,
Yes.
I actually believe that it's a popularity contest, and the people that are running for office, incumbents in particular, just stand up and beat their chests and say, well, I've been here for, 2 terms, and, I haven't failed you yet, have I? Well, that's not a reason to rehire somebody. Just because they're stuck in their ways and they're doing the same thing over and over again doesn't mean that it's being successful. What that communicates to me is that people are apathetic, and they go, well, if it's not broke, let's not fix it.
But is it, Pat? Is it because I'm sure the Libertarian Party doesn't have the deep coffers to fund a candidate? But is it just money, or is it that people are afraid to run for office?
Well, our base vote in Kendall County, and again, I'm fairly new to Kendall County. I've been there less than 2 years, and just took over as Libertarian county chair maybe 18 months ago. But I think that our base vote, and the way we measure base vote is take for instance, the education board. Well, if you look at Libertarians who run for the education board, that includes the district that includes Kendall County, I think we only got about 1,200 votes. I could be wrong. I need to look that up again. So our base vote is very, very low in Kendall County. Now, how do we improve that? Well, that's kind of my job, but it's going to be.
Here's your chance.
Well, what I would like to see is the ability for, as it is in other states, is the ability for a state rep or a state senator to run on both the Libertarian and Republican and Democrat ticket.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's possible now, but that was the way that Bill Buckley's brother got elected senator from New York, of all places, because he ran as a conservative on the Conservative Party ticket and the Republican Party ticket.
Interesting.
And those two combined tickets got him elected. If we could do that in Kendall County or in any county, then maybe we could begin to get, someone who's mainly a Republican, but maybe has libertarian views, start beginning to identify more as a libertarian.
Gotcha.
That's a long-term system.
Mike, I want to ask you the same question, and to Susan is, do you think that people are just scared to run for office because it's nasty nowadays and mean when you throw your hat in the ring?
Just real quick, just to give you some hope, okay? When we were saying bottom up, okay? I would anybody out there, get involved in your local conventions, your precinct conventions, get involved in your state conventions, become a delegate. You will see how it works. That's how I learned.
How do we tell them to do it?
So you'll have a precinct convention. Okay, you have to pay attention when it is. So I'm in precinct 3040. We will have a precinct convention, and you have every right to go to that and put in what you think the platform should look like. You get to put in planks. You get to put in what you think, and it gets sent forward. And then you go to the state convention, and everything gets brought up, and you vote on it. And that goes to the national level. So it is bottom up. You do have a chance to get involved in it.
Okay, but at the end of the day, when that gets published, whatever matriculated from the bottom or percolated up to the top, it's national-ish. Where is the county and state specific planks, aside from, let's just lump them all together into this national thing so they can turn around and force feed us what we're going to do?
Well, I mean, it is national. I mean, the Republic, like our views we're pretty aligned on what we believe, even locally and nationally.
So you're saying that the county plank and the county plank
fairly close. I mean, I'd say you interview Republicans. Why is that?
Because our issues here are completely different than what they are.
Okay, but then that's for that's for your local politics to figure out.
Yeah, they've got to solve that problem. How the heck can we expect to solve the problem in Austin and Washington, D.C. if we can't get our own house in order?
Right.
But that's up to us locally to take care of then. But I'm a Republican chair. You know? I'm not the county chair. I'm a Republican chair, and I'm supporting Republican values. It's up to me, not up to me. It's one of my goals is to what you're saying is I'm trying to get more people involved. That's a goal of mine.
Right.
I've started to see it already.
Mhm.
In past elections, I actually stopped by the election office today because I wanted to find out what past elections looked like. And they do have candidates that have run. There's been quite a few contested races in the past. It's one of my roles to try to stay. I want to be as positive as I can and encourage people to get involved. I'm getting involved, but I'm trying to become more civically active as a Republican chair to bring out those people. So I haven't given up
Good.
on trying to get people involved. That's what I want.
And obviously, you being here is
Just real quick. This weekend, we had a booth at the Bernie Market Days.
Mhm.
We had signed up 10 people to join to get more involved in their communities. That's the goal. It's not going to change overnight, but I just want to let you know from our end, that's one of my goals is to get more people involved locally.
But back to my question, though, I don't think you got a chance to answer it. Was do you? Because I see this. Do you think that people, when you approach them, Mike, and you're reaching out, people don't want to run because they just don't want to get smeared in these nasty campaigns, or is it apathy? Why is it that we don't get enough people wanting to run?
It is a scary proposition, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's it's nerve-wracking being here. I mean, it's gotten to the point where there is a lot of hatred out there. There's a lot of people. I was talking to a couple commissioners the other day about it, and one thing I've learned right off the bat is that to get into more of a public office, you have to be prepared for quite a few people not really liking you that much. You're going to make decisions that are going to anger other people.
Yes,
and that's a tough position to be in. For me, it's worth it, and I want to make that worth it for other people. Because that's always going to be there, right? That's not going anywhere.
That comes after you're already in office. I think what we're directing the question at is, I mean, this next election cycle that's coming up is proof positive. One contested race. We should have 3 or 4 people that are interviewing for this job, right? And I say
it
interview.
pays well. Some of these jobs pay very well.
Yeah.
You are interviewing for this job, and yet now it's very clear that the Kendall County constituency on both sides of the aisle, or all 3 sides, have thrown their hands up and said, we're perfectly happy with the people that are in there. We don't want to see any change.
Yet they take shots at him on social media every day.
Man, you get those keyboard warriors out there complaining and writing. And so, again, the question is, are people scared to run? And if so,
what can we do about it?
What can we do about it? But more importantly, why are they scared? And you mentioned it. I wouldn't say hatred. I'd say it's more vitriolic than it is.
Well, John, you and your $5 words. Every episode.
But who
Good
decides who runs?
Well, I can tell you on the Democratic side, the easiest is demographics. We have a lot of older people who are tired, grew up in the 60s, been involved in politics since 1976, tired. Would like to run and play more. So a part of it is that our younger people and even our 40s, 50s, and 60s, they're working full time. They've got kids in college, they've got mortgages. So it's very difficult for them. But that also leads to the fact that it takes so much money to run. I know when we ran a Democratic candidate, which, side note, some of these races are not partisan. They should not be partisan, like school board. That's not partisan. It was made partisan, and our little Democratic candidate spent over $10,000 of her own money to lose in flames. So, the money is an issue too, but I think the bottom line is that people are afraid. I know Democrats are afraid. We had a holiday party last weekend, and we had 85 people show up. 10 of them brand new, had never met them before. And they all said, we're coming out of the closet because they're afraid. We've had cars keyed. We've had windshield wipers broken off. I personally have found hate notes on my windows in my car because I have bumper stickers.
You advertise.
I do because I'm proud of that. And I had on a Beto shirt one day and was in Walmart going out the door, pretty oblivious, just want to get out of Walmart. And a man is screaming at the door, and I thought it might have been a mental health issue. Perhaps it was. But he got right in my face and was yelling at me, we don't need your kind here. Get out of here, Beto's, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I've been accosted at market days when we've had a Democratic booth by a man who has said some really ugly things, and so you kind of get to the point where you say it's not worth it,
Right.
which is very, very sad, I think,
Yes.
because then it falls into that apathy, and then we find ourselves where we are, which is not a good place.
What about you, Pat? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, getting somebody to run for, let's say, state rep, which is really expensive, not to mention state senator, but even the city council or county commissioner, when you have a base vote so low, it just again, we're tilting at windmills when you get right down to it. I haven't had our county meeting yet, convention yet. I'm trying to kind of work through how that, how we deal with that. We're a little different from the Republicans and the Democrats. We don't have a primary. So we actually nominate people through the various, the state, for instance, the state convention, we nominate the governors, who's going to run for governor. We have typically gotten over the 5% level that allows us to continue to have statewide, that allows us to continue to have ballot access. But I'm not sure, that's usually a situation where there's a Republican running without a statewide Republican running without a Democrat opposition, and therefore the Libertarian would get, enough votes to get above that 5%. I've heard that the state Republicans basically are trying to change that to eliminate the ability for the Green Party and the Libertarian Party to be on the ballot, because we typically we hurt the Republicans, the Green Party hurts the Democrats. So I hope that they're not
Everybody,
able to do that.
and everybody complains that, we have a third party candidate, it's going to skew the vote, split the vote, and then we end up putting somebody in there that we really don't like. So that's really an issue with how our two-party system is set up, and it's a barrier to entry to anybody that has a dissenting opinion to one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely.
So a consistent message and having somebody be able to stand up and say, hey, we believe in ABC. I put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. I think we gain a lot of traction, no matter what party you're from. Mm-hmm. Don't ride the fence.
I want to, Susan, so I'm going to pose a hypothetical to you.
Okay.
I decide to run for office in the Democratic Party, and I come to you and I say, I'm aligned with all these issues, except for I'm pro-life. Can I still get your endorsement from the party?